I am live. Good morning, all. Good morning. It is Monday, November 4th, 2024, just slightly after 8 o'clock. I don't have a lot of time. I am a working class man and I speak into the void. I don't even advertise on here. If you find this, it's a miracle. Um, and part of that is actually by design. I speak on here because I feel as if it's me just proclaiming I'm not crazy, they're crazy. We are living in a crazy world. We are living in a crazy world. And we need to shout somewhere. This is me shouting in the void. This is my testimony that when my government supported another government that was committing genocide, that I was not complicit in their evil deeds. And I've said on here before about Kim Iverson. She's a very popular podcaster. She's got a great setup, and she's an independent thinking person. And she tweeted once, she always wondered how individuals allowed the Holocaust to happen, and she know, and essentially she no longer does, right? Because we've witnessed this live stream genocide, right? Surely in the year 2023 and 2024, we're more aware of what Israel has done to Palestine than even people in Germany were of what their government was doing to the Jews. There can be no doubt about it, is that we have at our fingertips the ability to communicate and to see any non-mainstream entities. Excuse me, I have something in my beard. Mainstream entities, as they show us, the horrors from Gaza and what Israel's done. So we are truly without excuse. We can't say we didn't know. If you don't know, it's truly because you didn't want to know. You know, and in the midst of 13 plus months of live stream genocide, we have an election now about to happen. Now, the incumbent bowed out. Joe Biden will not be seeking reelection. He's not on the ballot anymore, even though he got all of the primary votes. In fact, his party shut down the primary process. They did not actually allow for an open, fair primary. They rigged it for him because they knew his state. Please go away. Don't come back for another 10 minutes. Sorry about that. I literally said I was making a video before I got on here, and I still get to knock at the door. That's the joys. But it is what it is. So yeah, I was just making a point that I always make. It's hard not to be enraged at the Democrats, and sometimes the fact that I'm enraged at the Democrats passes along to Democratic voters because, I don't know if I should feel this way, but it's those of us who follow politics close enough will realize that this is literally the third straight election where they rigged their primaries. In fact, this primary they didn't even rig it. They just they went back to the smoke-filled back rooms where they just nominate somebody. And so my major closing thought is just like fair for um, Kamala winning, considering all that she and her party has done to take away our power, for us, the people, to mandate and to endorse this fraudulent process, the heinous crime. Um, where would that leave us as a people? I don't believe, after watching the last 12 or so years, that you can argue anymore that the president is truly the person that's in charge. there is, Trump has been railing against the deep state, and there certainly is a permanent state of people, people at the Pentagon, CIA, these, 3-letter organizations. There are people that, it doesn't matter. In fact, the CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, was saying recently that, you're just tired of like the whole line of, this is the most consequential election, like because he knows it isn't. He knows that he and other CEOs like him are the ones who are truly in charge, right? With our elected officials, even when they lose office, they've cut so many deals. They've had the lobbyists in their office for so long that even if they lose office, oftentimes when you look at these people who worked in the government and where they go back to the industries where they were regulating. And what does that tell you? Were they actually regulating them, or were they like, cutting sweetheart deals, turning blind eyes, all these type of things, engaging in crony capitalism, knowing that on the other end, God forbid for them, if they lost power, that they have a nice, cushy, soft landing, right? Our Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, they broke the law to allow him to become the Secretary of Defense because he literally was leaving Raytheon, and he wasn't. He had not retired from service long enough to become the Secretary of Defense per the law. So they had to literally, change the law essentially in order to have him become the Secretary of Defense. So this just speaks to me, like, if we the people, our democracy is a bourgeois democracy, and by that I just mean that what we the people truly want to happen with the people that we elect, the chances of all those things going on to a line item and being made like top priority by those presidents that we elect, it's 0%. That's not their priority, honestly, and they're not even lying to us anymore. If you look at the presidential debate, the one that happened with Kamala and Donald, and you look at the vice presidential debate that happened with Vance and Walz. In fact, in the VP debate, it was like the first question was about who loves Israel more, who's going to do more for Israel. This is what they care about, right? I mentioned this, and I'm sorry to be repeating myself, but I'm just, even though I know it, it's still just it gobsmacks me. It's like, wow, they got that much of a grip on our people. There was a debate between Ted Cruz, who's running to maintain his Senate seat in Texas, against some former pro football player, Colin Allred, and Cruz starts out by like slandering him and talking about how his supporters are like anti-Israel. And, I think I saw this on somebody else's podcast. I might be I hate that. I don't mind taking the idea if it's a great idea, but I would love to attribute it. I think it might have been Dave Smith. He's a comic. He's a libertarian. He does great work also. But he mentioned about like, what an opportunity that could have been to put some daylight between you and Ted Cruz, and to talk about the plight of the Palestinians, to talk about this war, how it needs to end, and all this stuff. And and just the way in which Allred took it was just to essentially talk about just how much he loves Israel, and he's the one who's going to really be for Israel. The Jewish vote needs to be his vote, right? That the pro-Zionist lobby needs to back him. So it's like in all of these elections, it's like this was the most. I already voted. I early voted, not this Sunday, but the Sunday before that. And it was the most depressing, depressed I felt voting, just because of, you get to this point where you just realize that this is all just theater, right? And obviously, I voted for the non-genocidal presidential candidate, Joe Stein, and her vice president nominee, Rudolph Ware. But it just felt like it felt more depressing than ever before, because I think the more you realize that we are just engaged in a theater, the more it's just like, man, what a bummer. What a bummer. I've been on actually a couple more minutes. I got to start tightening these things up. But the thought that I've been trying to convey, and maybe not doing the best job, is just to say that if you will vote for someone who commits it's just like I'm afraid, like, what can they not do if they can get you to vote for a person who was second in power as our country funded and provided cover for a genocide? What can they not do to us, right? I've been putting up on my Facebook stories all of these things, just pointing out the ridiculousness of this election. The last one, I think I got it from Nico House. He had this picture on his YouTube post of like a guy who just shot a person, and the person that was shot, it had the label Palestinian, and then I think the person who was shooting him was like Democrats, and then in the next slide, like almost like a comic, was that person turning to face and say, hey, if you don't vote for me, Donald Trump will kill you, right? And and it's hilarious to me, because that's essentially been the pitch that Kamala and all of her surrogates have given. I mean, it's funny to see it in that fashion, but it's really disgusting when you hear them actually flesh out. Like when you hear Bill Clinton and Barack Obama acknowledge what's going on in Gaza, and essentially say, hey, but do you want those eggs to continue to be so high? Do you do you want a woman to have autonomy over their bodies or not? Like, it's like, man, you just said that you were really making this pitch. And the despairing thing is that uh, I was saying on my last post that I thought that Trump was going to win in a landslide. And I am not so doctrinaire that I don't waffle in my opinions. I don't get new information in and start to doubt what I said. And I was very confident. And I'm still like, more than anything, I'm honestly hoping. I hate to say this, because it's like, it's not like I want Donald Trump in. I just want the message to be sent that we, the American people, and it's me putting faith in us, that we, the American people, those of us who hated the chaotic way in which the Trump administration ran, and we voted for Biden Harris on the promise that the adults will be in place back in charge, and that would mean reducing the temperature in the country so that we weren't so much at each other's neck over these cultural issues, and that there would be some stability in not hearing about wars and rumors of wars. Like, we wouldn't be stoking wars. Like, these are the kind of reasons that I voted for Biden. His platform wasn't the best, but he had some things that he was promising that he didn't deliver on. $15 minimum wage. He broke a strike. These are kind of things that for leftists, these are red lines already. And so he ran a pretty much milquetoast administration when it comes to just domestic issues. But then when you add on funding the Ukraine proxy war with Russia, and all that they've done for Israel and helping them to commit this genocide, it's just like, man, it's like, if these things are not red lines for his VP, who essentially burst onto the scene and declared that the only difference between her and Joe Biden is that she is not Joe Biden. And her pitch to you why you should vote for her is, but she's also not Donald Trump. That's literally what she has said many, many times. I'm like quoting her almost exactly. That's what she said. She said to people when asked to kind of like tell us what's going to make you different, what's going to make the way in which things are running different. um, better under you. And essentially, I say, I'm not Joe Biden, but guess what? Benefit, I'm not Donald Trump. And it's like, man, that is crazy. I wrote this on my story, on one of my most recent stories. My fear is not Donald Trump. My fear is the ruling class learning that we will not hold genociders accountable at the ballot box if they can convince us of a boogeyman. That's my fear. It's like, man, so you don't have to offer us to make our lives better at all. We can continue to slowly but surely see what we bring in, not pay for what it used to pay for. We can just have our standard of living constantly degraded. We can allow you to continue to wage economic wars with countries like Venezuela and Cuba, and we'll let you do that. And what happens when you wage economic wars on these countries? Their migrants come here because you're stealing from them in their home. You're ruining their home, and so they come to your home looking to make a better life for themselves. And who does that immiserate? The poor and the middle class among us, right? We are the ones who have to deal with the increased people at the bottom vying for the fewer and fewer austere resources that our ruling class gives out, right? Austerity, right? Where both Democrats and Republicans come to the recognition that, hey, we got to make some cuts, right? Our debt is unmanageable, right? And where do they go for the cuts? Do they go to the defense budget? No, not that, right? They look at the what they're doing for poor and working class people, and they want to reduce those benefits, right? And now you have more people who are coming, right? And so now you add more people to the pot of these resources that you've been reducing, right? And now now that's got to be split amongst more people, right? So what does that make poor and working class people? How does it make them feel about these immigrants coming in? We don't oftentimes consider how they got here, why they're here, right? We just know that, man, they're here, and life is all the more worse, for us, right? We don't consider the fact that oftentimes we're not compassionate enough to realize, hey, these people are just trying to make a better life for themselves, and if we were in their positions, we would do the same thing, right? And we have so much misplaced ire, us working class and poor people. Our ire is misplaced. If we were to direct our anger at the people who deserve it, the poor and the ruling class, if we all came together, right, that's what our ruling class fears. And that's why that's why if we allow them to shoehorn in this this pick that if we got a chance at actual democracy, would have never picked, which is Kamala Harris. Like it or loathe it. She did terrible in the 2020 primaries and dropped out before a vote was cast in Iowa. If we had an open primary, she would have never come out of it. You see how she's run the campaign. She's not talented in that way. That doesn't speak to how she will govern, but she's just not somebody that, if you got to hear from truly impressive people, or even people who just present themselves as impressive, where you would say, you know what, I'm going to go with the woman who can't string together two sentences. That's who I want to vote for. It never would have happened, right? So we have to show our power. We the people at some point have to get over fear of the other. They like pronouns, I hate pronouns, or whatever. We got to get over that stuff. That's the stuff that they're using to keep us divided. But if we could come together, right, that's what would have the ruling class shaking in their boots. I'm cheering for a Kamala loss. I'm clear. I've heard leftists saying that, they're going to be happy either way because they're going to be seeing one side melting down, and it's just going to be glorious in their eyes. It's like, I don't feel that way. If Trump loses, I'm not sad that Trump's losing. I mean, I don't think that he's a great guy. I think he's an awful guy. But I just think that the idea that people can take comfort in voting for what this administration has done, to me, that's just terrifying. And that's just where I am. I don't want to see Trump win, but I want to see Kamala lose. And I know, obviously, logically speaking, people will say, "Oh, you're looking for Trump to win." I'm just looking for us to be able to send a message to one half of the ruling class that when you do something that's heinous, we will take notice and we will hold you accountable. And looking at some of these early returns on early voting, it looks as if that's not the message that we're going to send. And I have more faith in us, in the American people, and we'll see. There's a day and a half. We'll see if I was wrong to put such faith in what we will do as a people, what we will stand for, and what we will not tolerate. But I do think that if Harris is elected, that Martin Niemöller quote, right? They came for the communists and I didn't speak up because I was not a communist. They came for the Catholics and I didn't speak up because I was a Protestant. They came for the trade unionists. I didn't speak up. I was not a trade unionist. And then when they came for me, there was no one, right? That issue in Palestine is a human rights issue. It's a woman's rights issue. It's all these issues. It's at the forefront of all these issues. If you allow them to do that to them, then what do you think they will do to you? Right. So that's where I'm at. That's why my hope is a Harris loss. But I have to be honest, I'm no longer as confident as I was a few days ago when I was saying it's going to be Trump by a landslide. If the early results are any indication, this thing could be a coin flip, and even that's disappointing. But I'm just cheering for a huge Harris loss, and anything else is going to be, in my mind, it's going to be unsatisfactory. All right, so that's it. We'll see. We got tomorrow's election day, and so hopefully tomorrow night or maybe early Wednesday morning we'll know who is going to be the next puppet for the next 4 years, who will be the face of the American empire, and who it is that we are to oppose. Right. As I'm closing out, and this is like an add-on. The reason, even though I'm opposed to liberals and liberalism and just the stuff that they've accepted, the reason why I think it would be better to oppose Trump is for two reasons. First of all, he's a chaos agent. You never know. He doesn't always go along to get along. Sometimes he truly thinks that he's in charge. He's one of these guys that doesn't realize that the permanent state is who is in charge, and he kind of fights with them, right? And he's probably the first one since JFK caught a bullet who fights with them, who doesn't just go along to get along. And whereas Kamala is just an empty suit, right? She's the perfect avatar. She's the Manchurian candidate they've always hoped and wished for. That's one thing. It's better to have them unhappy because their front person, the president, their front person is a chaos agent. He says stuff that exposes the empire. That was the greatest part of President Trump's first presidency, right? Is he would just say stuff out loud that, they're probably choking. I couldn't see them drinking coffee. And then he said stuff about like when they're in Syria, why don't they just take the oil? And I can see them like spitting out their coffee. Like, what are you doing? Of course we're taking oil. You don't say why when we take the oil. Of course, that's why we're there. That's why we're in all these places. That's why we have sanctions on Venezuela, sanctions on Cuba, all these places, because we want their natural resources, right? We want them to stop that socialist government junk, right? Stop giving our people a alternative economic setup to look at them and say, hey man, that socialism don't look so bad, right? China over there, pulling people out of poverty, fastly rising up, becoming the number 2, quickly to be the number 1 to take over from us. Man, that stuff don't look so bad. The reason they go to war with these places is because they don't want folks who have different setups showing that something's successful. Oh my goodness. How did I get here? Now I forget how to close this out. Oh man, I almost feel like I gotta start writing down or something. But yeah. Harris lost. There was supposed to be a second point I was making about why Trump the chaos agent, right? Trump the chaos agent. And number 2, I can't remember what I was thinking about with the number 2. There it is. There it is. It came back to me. Secondly, it doesn't matter which one of these people becomes the front person. We are going to need to get people activated out in the streets, outraged at what our government is offering to us, and hopefully outraged at what they're doing to other people. This is the thing. It's like somebody, a friend of mine online, Twitter friend. It's funny, actually. We met through Twitter, and then after enough talking, we realized that we're only a few years apart, and we went to the exact same high school. So it's like, what? That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, and it's like, yeah. But shout out to my man Cyrus. We went to Mount St. Michael. Funny story. A story that we used to tell the story with more pride before recent news, but another person who went to our high school, you may know him as the Diddler. Sean Buffy Combs also went to high school. That used to be a source of pride, and now, no, not at all, not so much. It is a huge L, but yeah, probably the most famous graduate from our high school. But yeah, but he often tells me, like, man, Americans, they don't care about what's going on and what we're doing to other countries. So it's like he's always telling me, like, because he was actually one of the people telling me, no, Kamala got this. Kamala's probably going to win. I'm saying, no, man, there's no way. How is that possible? He's like, Americans, we are myopic. We're not looking at, what effect our country is having on other countries. So it's probably going to be Kamala. And honestly, that Dobbs decision that Trump set into motion by putting those 3 right-wing Supreme Court justices on the court, it's like Trump and the Republicans may truly be the dog that caught the car with the overturn of Roe versus Wade. But that's another thing. This is another reason that liberals who, if they put in Kamala, they will rue the day that they did that. Democrats, and I've said this again, but think about this: if it is shown that despite inflation and all the just hardships that we as Americans are suffering, on top of what they're doing over in Gaza, if it's shown that despite all of that, that majority woman will vote for Kamala at such a clip that she is able to escape all of these indictments against her and win the election, why will they ever codify Roe versus Wade? They're going to be holding that over you every election. Oh, you can't have this next one. You think Trump, this is the last time he's going to run. But think about guys like, who's that guy from Arkansas, Cotton. I think Cotton. Think about guys like the one from Missouri, Hawley. I think Ted Cruz, it might be a little long in the tooth, but I don't know. I think he's probably in his 50s or something. But just think about you think that Trump is going to be the last person that our media convinces us is the next coming of Adolf Hitler? You know what? The one thing that Joe Rogan's podcast with Trump pointed out, he started off with this. It's like, man, these people all loved you before before you actually won. When they thought that you were just gonna be the stooge that allowed Hillary to get into the White House, they introduced you on the View as their friend. So their friend, right? In fact, Trump was saying during the Al Smith dinner that he wrote Chuck Schumer his first check when he was running those many moons ago for Senate, right? So this is a guy that's been at all these parties with them that you know they know this guy, right? And the fact that you you go to all of these different events with him, is that really what you would do with somebody who's Adolf Hitler? Right? If you think that Trump is the last person that they're going to cast as Adolf Hitler in order to have the alternative who's offering you nothing, just be like the lesser evil. If you think this is the last time they're going to use that, man, you are sorely mistaken. They will never codify Roe. They will always hold your rights over your head and tell you if you let the other people in, that's Adolf Hitler. That's Adolf Hitler. That's always going to be the thing, right? They got this second half of the ruling party that doesn't promise their electorate anything. You know, they just make it as if, you know, we're going to keep what the Republicans essentially offer is we're going to signal that we're for traditional values, and we're going to keep the American dream of, you know, becoming one of these, not a rich person, not like, you know, you earned a couple $1,000,000, but to become like Jeff Bezos, to become the next Elon Musk. They're gonna that's what they present, as if you too can one day be a Jeff Bezos or an Elon Musk based on the policies that we're going to implement. And, and if working class people realize that none of those people came from you know, working class families, you know, Bezos was given like $100,000 and a garage to use to open up Amazon, right? Elon Musk comes from like blood diamond money, right? You know, these are people. This is money that is that they have exploded the what they had, but they started off with stuff that, me being a working class person, I'm not going to be able to give those advantages to any of my children, you know? So the idea that, you know, you were going to vote for these people that will allow you to one day maybe become the next person who can exploit hundreds of thousands of people, where you give them a salary and you take the lion's share of what these people will produce, right? That's what that's their appeal, and it's just like it just for the Republican voter who votes for that. I just you know, for the working class person who votes for that, I think that's truly unfortunate that you don't recognize that. Yeah. This is a lot, like I'm telling you, like I love how I just discourage the Republican vote when I'm telling you that. I think it would be depressing for Kamala to win, but these are our realities. The solution is to show that we have the power by um, empowering third parties, starting to get them to 5%. This should be the goal. You know, I'm gonna make another video because this was a thought that I also had. Hopefully, that video will be shorter. It'll be right after this, but I'll be right back.